What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Where I last left off in the Silverado build, we got the front end completely done, and then I started working on the rear end, and the problem that I was having was I can't take this leaf spring out unless I drop the exhaust a little bit and the gas tank, because this bolt, I can't access that bolt because of that exhaust is in the way and because of that gas tank's in the way. And even if I can access it, the problem is that this bolt is so long that there's just not enough clearance for me to slide that bolt out to remove these leaf springs. Now, when most people do the McGaughy's lift kit, they just reuse the old leaf springs so they don't have to deal with that issue. But since I'm replacing mine because mine are worn and I wanted to replace the bushings on them, I have to make the extra step in removing some of the exhaust and lowering the gas tank to replace it. Now, hopefully this truck will be done today and you guys get to see for the first time what my wheel setup will look like on this truck. This side's being a real pain, so time to torch it. So as you can tell, we are trying to cut it with a torch because this is being a pain in the rear. I think popcorn's ready.
Hell yeah. Get the butter.
Something was seems smoky. Okay, so that is cut all the way through. All right, well, we managed to get the passenger rear leaf spring out on this side. As you can see, it's here in the bottom. We had to do a lot of creative ways to get this out because this bolt back here was being stubborn, so we actually had to use an acetylene torch, basically heat it off. Now, hopefully we don't have that problem on the driver's side. We won't know until we start knocking it out. I'm gonna stop on the passenger side and then I'm gonna focus on the driver's side and see if we have to do the same thing. But before we do, I may have to drop the driver's side tank, or I can probably cut off that bolt, whichever is gonna be easier to get that leaf spring off of that side. Let's go ahead and try to knock that side out as quickly as possible. So I decided to remove the tank, or just lower it just enough so I can get access to that bolt on that side. So the first thing you're gonna have to do is remove this charcoal canister. So you're gonna have to remove these two lines that's leading to the gas tank. This is the filler neck. This is gonna go to differential. You don't have to disconnect this. Inside on top of the gas tank, I think you can't really see from here, but you should be able to reach in there. There'll be a plastic clip that you're gonna have to remove, and then this just slides right out. Next, we can position the jacks underneath the fuel tank, and I'm going probably a little bit overboard with this. I just really don't know how much fuel is in this tank, but I'm gonna assume it's topped off. This should be good. I think this is overkill, but I'm pretty sure this is gonna be fine. Fingers crossed, as always, and hopefully this goes smooth. so excited that this side was not a pain as the other side, because that would have took me a couple hours just to get that one bolt out. I'm going to pause on putting back the rear end momentarily. I'm actually waiting for the parts department to get open at Chevy because it's like super early right now. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning and they don't open till 8. So in the meantime, I'm gonna knock out some other stuff that I've been meaning to do. I already installed the wheel wells back on. Pretty self-explanatory. There's just a bunch of clips and screws and whatnot that hold it in place. And then I'm going to go ahead and start filling up the front differential with fluid until it starts seeping, and the minute it starts seeping, then we'll cap it off, and then that's when you know it's at the proper fill level. Oh, there she goes. Time to put the exhaust back on this side, and then we'll focus on the other side. Now it's time to install the fuel tank back up after we've already tightened down the leaf springs. This should be fun. All the hoses, the charcoal canister, all the connections underneath the fuel tank is done. The next thing we're gonna do is put that little trim piece, heat shield deal that protects the fuel tank from debris back on, and then we can start focusing on the rear. Lip blocks that we're going to put in between the lower leaf springs and the axle. You'll notice that one side's larger than the other. The larger side is going to go towards the back of the vehicle, and then the smaller side is going to go towards the front, so that you have it orientated correctly. So then this is the short side, this is the long side, so then we're going to install them like so. So before we put the rear shocks back on, what we're going to do is we're going to reroute these brake lines. Now, McGaughy's has self-tapping screws, so what we're going to do was this bracket was bolted up here on top. What we're going to do is use the self-tapping screws and screw it onto the bottom of the frame, and that should give it enough clearance and slack. With that full droop, you shouldn't have any issues with the ABS cables and brake lines being in the way. I went ahead and rerouted everything and zip tied certain things. So I took the passenger e-brake cable and left it in the OEM hooks. And then it called to remove the driver's side brake cable and basically just have it dangling. And I didn't really feel that comfortable with it, so I just kind of zip tied a little connector right here. I didn't go all the way. I just kind of gave it a little slack, but I'm pretty satisfied with that. Coming onto the rear, the only thing I zip tied was this ABS cable to the actual hard brake line. This was removed from the differential housing previously when we replaced the differential cover. So this is kind of just chilling. Everything else is basically bolted on from factory. All right, next step what we're gonna do is install the rear shocks. Now I believe this top portion goes to the frame, and I believe this bottom portion here is gonna go to your axle. The McGaughy's lift kit. There's a few things we have to do before we're completely done. I have to do an alignment. I have to fill it with oil. I also have to make sure I lubricate and put grease in all of the ball joints. Fill it with power steering fluid, relieve the power steering, and I think that's about it. Two ball joints we're gonna need to grease are these two up here, and don't go heavy on this. All you got to do is not even a full pump, just like just a little bit of a dab that goes in here. Next we're gonna fill up the transmission. I'll be using Dextron automatic transmission fluid. I'm gonna start with 5 quarts, warm up the vehicle until it's at full operating temperature, and then I'll see if I need to add more or not. So now we're at the stage where I'm most nervous. We got all the fluids in. We need to start the vehicle. Now I'm gonna reset the reminders for the oil change inside, and then I'm gonna prime the car like maybe 1 or 2 cycles because we disconnected the fuel pressure. So that'll prime the fuel pump, and then we will start the vehicle. I'll hop out, go underneath, take a look at possible leaks, and then we will proceed to bleeding the power steering. So good. Well, I'm surprised. I honestly am really surprised because I would have thought that there would be some sort of leaks, some problems, some issues. The only thing that I didn't do correctly was I left the cap for the power steering pump off. So when I was bleeding the power steering, fluid just came out of the pump and then got all over the floor. So I cleaned it all up and it's all good. And I verified and make sure it was from the pump that it was leaking and not somewhere else. So now we're on to where I think everyone's been waiting for. Oh, you've missed me, haven't you? I think it's time, guys. I think it's time.
Ready for you, dog.
Sound like my daddy.
You hear me? Sounding like my daddy. I got them black men. Now you know they mad at me. They're right. I say I'm stunning like my daddy. John in this thing, you say he's stunning like his daddy. Bilingual, and if he's stunning like his daddy, my dog out here, look, he's stunning like his daddy. Big old black silver rim, stunning like his daddy.
So this has been a really, really big pet peeve of mine. I don't know why when people get new tires, they leave the goddamn stickers on. I hate it when people do this. I hate it. I don't know why. It's so much more hard to get the sticker off once you start driving the vehicle. Remove the sticker from the tire, please. Just leave stickers on hats. So I ran into an issue. I feel really retarded, but I installed the lower control arms on the opposite sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, this should be riding on top. And
yeah,
I just completely messed up. We are going to fix this. Messed up the lower ball joint threads of the bolts on this side. And yeah. I will fix this all in 3, 2, 1. I just messed up completely. I just completely messed up. I lowered down the truck. I wish I would have got it on camera. The rear had like so much ride height, and then the front, it looked squatted, but like an opposite squat. Does that make sense? An opposite, it was like leaning forward. And I was wondering what the heck is 9 inches and these tires can't clear? Like what the heck is going on? Night and day difference. This is what a true 9-inch lift looks like. Now the only thing that we noticed that we're having issues with is that it's lightly clipping right here. So I'm just gonna cut a little angle right here just to clear it, and then hopefully it's still probably gonna rub. When you go on full lock, it was rubbing against here, but now we made some clearance, and yeah, it's good now. All right, so I'm not gonna explain the whole process of how to do an alignment on this truck right now. I'm just gonna go ahead and show you guys how I'm doing alignment with a little time lapse. Enjoy. Check this out. We got it as straight as we can for right now. It looks pretty good. I mean, if you were to see it before, it was like, it straight up looked like Back to the Future, where the car sits like this on the DeLorean. No, this thing is looking way better. Way better. I am pretty pleased. Next thing what we gotta do is take it for a spin.